And hello YouTube, this is GSmaniamsmart and I'm with another brand new video for tutorials with GS. In today's tutorial, we're taking a look at Adobe After Effects and how to create your own YouTube intro. It's going to be like a short little clip that comes before all our videos. That's kind of what we're going to be creating today. Now this is actually something that someone's requested me to do, and just be aware, I'm not going to make anything super amazing cool. We're going to go over something that's it's still cool, but it's not super advanced. Anyone can really do it. And just to sort of give you an idea of how to work After Effects, what steps you should take, what you should consider when you're creating your YouTube introduction. And this is just an example. You can use this example for your own intros. You can work off of it. You can just copy it, or you can make something completely different. But hopefully this will give you an idea of how to create an intro, and I'm going to assume you know at least somewhat of the basics of After Effects. You've at least opened it up once, because I'm not going to go over all the super basic stuff. So let's go ahead and create a composition, and we're going to go ahead and create a 1920 by 1080. How long do we want it to be? Well, I can always adjust the composition if I need it to. Now, first thing we're going to do is create our background. So I'm going to go and create a new solid. So layer, new layer, and we're going to create a new solid. And something that I always like to use is a grayish. A grayish whitish is always a good color as a background. Or you could even use a black actually, but we're gonna go with something grayish here first. So just like that. And that looks nice. Now, next thing we're going to do is create a vignette, and it's actually fairly easy to create. I've created a video in Premiere Pro on how to do this, but it's actually even more easier to do it in After Effects. What we're going to do is create another solid, so layer, new solid. Make sure this one is black this time, like so. Let's go and press OK. And up top here at your rectangle, go and grab the ellipse tool, and after that we can go ahead and double click the ellipse tool like that, and it will create a ellipse for us. Now in this mask here, what we want to do is change the opacity and the feathering, but before we do that, what we want to do is change this mode from add to subtract, and that will basically invert it sort of like that. And then we can go and start feathering this out. You could feather out first, or you could do opacity first. I like to feather it out first though. Something like that, and change the opacity just a bit. Like that. That looks fairly good. Yeah, that looks fairly good. So this is a vignette. So that is the proper name for it. So we have our background, we have our vignette, and this is basically, this entire composition is our background. Let's go ahead and create another composition, and the reason I want to create a lot of compositions is because we're going to be adding effects to certain things, and we don't want the effect to apply towards everything. We don't want an effect to apply towards the background. We only want it to apply to like the text or an object we have. So that's why it's important to create several different compositions so that we can easily just drag one composition into the next. So in our second composition, we're going to go create a text layer. So we'll go up to layers, new, and text, like so. And we're actually going to press this little down, press this little on the bottom here, near the bottom here, press this little toggle button. And if you press it down, then this will basically bring an alpha channel up. By default, all compositions have this, but it's black by default. So just press it and you'll see your alpha channel in the background. Now for our text layer, we can start to type something. So let's type, well, let's just type tutorials with GS, like so. And perhaps we want to do it full bold. Let's go ahead and actually do it full bold. I want to bring it sort of in the middle, try to position it to the middle. And we're actually going to go full bold here, like so. And what's a nice font we can use? Gonna go and highlight everything. Go over to our fonts here, and let's just pick a random one. No, definitely not that. Luckily we can just go through these like so. want something bold and bulky, something like that. That looks fairly good. And we're gonna go and increase the size here. Increase the size here. That's probably gonna be a bit too big. Yeah, a bit too big. Let's go ahead and shrink that a bit, like so. All right, so maybe even a bit smaller because. All right, there we go. That's good. All right, so now we have our text. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it black. However, what I do want to do is you could add some color if you want. For example, if we wanted to, for example, make tutorials a different color, we could definitely do that. I use red for my tutorial stuff, so let's go ahead and make it red because why not? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So from here on, we're gonna go and make another new layer. Go to layer again, and go to new, and we're gonna add a camera this time. And a 35mm should do. It's about the middle range, so it's fine. Go ahead and press OK. And press OK here. And here we have a camera. And perhaps making a new composition for this would even be better. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new composition. Like so. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag the camera. I guess that doesn't work. Can we copy and paste from composition to composition? Yes, we can. All right, so like that. That way we can add any effects we want to our text and it doesn't affect anything else here. So we're just gonna go ahead and grab our second composition, which is our text composition, drag it in, and there we go. So far we have our background created, we have our text, and we have our environment. I like to call this the environment with the camera. So now what do we want to do? We want to create some sort of effect on our text. We either want it to dissolve, we either want it to appear, we either want it to fade out, we either want it to shatter or explode. And the last one probably seems the most exciting to all of us, so we're going to go ahead and do that one. So make sure you have your text, your composition here selected with your text. We're going to go up to Effects and Simulation and Shatter. Now, as you see, right now we're not really seeing anything. In fact, if we toggle the alpha channel off, you see we have this weird looking diagram here. Now this weird looking diagram will come in handy very soon. But first, let's go ahead and change our view here from wireframe to rendered, so you can sort of see what's happening. Let's go ahead and hide our black again and show the alpha channel. And let's go ahead and go into shapes and go into pattern, and from bricks let's change it to, you could pick anything really, but let's change it to glass. And now if we go back to rendered and go to wireframe again, and we go, oops, what was that? That was really weird. I have no idea what that does. Oh, it takes a snapshot. That's take a snapshot. That's really, really weird. All right, so now when you see this, it actually shows you this one. Yeah, here we go. It actually shows you how this glass is going to explode. As you can see, it sort of gives you a nice representation as you scrub through the footage here. It shows you how it basically shatters. That's the point of this wireframe view, so you can see how it simulates. Right now, if we go back to our rendered view, you can see a similar thing happening. And we go and show our alpha channel again. And this looks pretty cool. Look at this. Looks really awesome. Right from the middle, explode. Just like that. So, that's kind of the effect we're looking for. But if we notice, we get a huge hole in the middle. We don't want that. It looks very unnatural. And it just looks really bad. So how can we fix this and actually customize our effect a bit more? Now, first of all, if we go ahead and look at the repetition, and our repetitions is right here, if we increase this, you see we get more pieces. And more pieces is good. It sort of is, it's up to you how many pieces you want. I think I like, maybe, is that too many? That's a bit too much. Let's bring it down a bit more. Maybe like that. Yeah, that's fine. A lot of this is up to your personal preference. So just like that. And then we want to change our gravity under the physics. Where's our physics here? Here's physics. And gravity, let's change that to 0. And the reason why we're changing it to 0 is because that way the pieces actually go towards the camera. If you notice that we have gravity at a different value, it basically goes to a different direction. And we want it to basically come towards the camera like that and go outwards. Now for this empty space in the middle here that we have, how we can fix this is by changing the depth. So the depth would be, so under force 1 here, you can see the depth here. Now if we change this, you can see the higher we make this value, the less of a hole we have in the middle. But you don't want to get too high of a value because then nothing happens. So you don't want to go too negative either, nothing happens either. So let's try perhaps 0.1. And let's scrub through this. Maybe 0.2. Maybe 0.2 would do it. There we go. That's a bit better. And look at that. We have that piece flying up towards the camera. It's really awesome. I like that. That's a really nice generator we have here. Oh, it looks really awesome. All right, so we have that. And now what we want to do, if we go ahead and preview this, if you want to change how long it takes, because right now it takes about, if we scrub through here, it takes about, this takes about 2 seconds to shatter. If you want to make this longer or shorter, you're going to have to change the strength. And here's the strength. For example, if I make this a lot higher, then this is actually going to go quicker. As you see, the higher the strength, the quicker this will go. However, the lower I bring this value, you can do all kinds of crazy things here. Actually, you could even make it come together by putting a negative strength, which looks really awesome. You can make a really cool effect, but that's not what we're looking for. So I'm gonna keep my strength at 0. Actually, it's only really necessary if you want to make it shorter or longer, but I think 0 is just fine because well, we didn't have it at 0, did we? We had it at what was the default that we had it at? Okay, here we go. That was the default. I like the default. The default is just fine because 2 seconds is cool. But I just wanted to mention it so in case you wanted to change it, you can. So we have our simulation here where our text explodes, right? But we want to add some more pizzazz to our composition. We want to add some camera movement. We have a camera here, and we can do all kinds of crazy things with the camera. We can either zoom in here and like rotate it a bit, or we can zoom out. But what I want to do is rotate the camera and actually go into the explosion. So what we're gonna do is, let me think about this. What I want to do is have the camera basically go from a side and like come from the side, but then rotate to the center and just zoom in. Or we could have it come in from the center and then rotate and zoom in sideways. We could do that too. So let's try it. How we're gonna do this is go ahead and press the down little tooltip here, the little toolbar, whatever it is, this little arrow, bring it down, and then under the transform little tooltip right there, whatever it is, this little arrow, look under point of interest and orientation. That's what we're going to be looking at. So what I want to do is I want to have the camera sort of start regularly, right? But then as it explodes, I want to have the camera turn and zoom in. So how long do I want this to be? Perhaps I want the explosion to last a bit longer as well, since we have all that camera movement. So we're going to go ahead and actually go to our composition one more time. And instead of having a strength of 5, let's have a strength of 3. That way it takes a bit longer to explode. In fact, for it to completely explode, it's going to take roughly around almost 4 seconds, which is fine. So for the first, I'd say for the first second, perhaps, or for the first half a second, and the way you can tell it's a half a second is that we have 30 frames per second right now. Now, every time you move this thing on the left side here, you see how these seconds change. This goes by frames. So right now we're at 28 frames, 29 frames, and once we get to 30 frames, which is right there, we're at 1 second. So this goes by frames. So half a second would be 15 frames. So let's see if we can get it sort of. That's right there. So right here, we want the camera to start orientating to a different position. So let's go into camera. Now, before you do any of this, though, you want to make sure that you have your composition layer as a 3D layer. Because if you don't do that, then it basically won't work. So make sure this little checkbox is selected here under 3D here. Make sure that's 3D. And then we can start playing with our orientation and with our point of interest. Now, if you take a look at the orientation here, if we move this around, it basically changed the way the camera is looking down at our text, right? But we wanna keep it straight for now. So here's how we have it right now. So right about half a second, I want the camera to start going to a different position. I want it to rotate, basically. So our orientation here, if we move this, we don't want it to go up, definitely not. We want it to rotate like so. So we're probably gonna go, our camera's probably gonna go this way. Perhaps something like that. And when you're doing it, make sure you put a keyframe. So essentially the way you want to do this is basically from half a second we want our camera to start moving. So we're gonna put a keyframe on orientation here, right? And then right around when it's at 1 second here, let's go 1 frame forward to about 1 second. You can also type your numbers in here if you'd like to do that. At 1 second here, we want the camera to have a different orientation already, something like that. And we also want to, now your point of interest here basically is X, Y, and Z axis. The X is left, right, Y is up and down, and the Z is going inwards and outwards. Now for the position, our Z value is going to be here for this third one. Point of interest is mainly used for left and right. But for your Z value, take this last one under position here. So at what point do we want to start zooming in? We want to start zooming in, I think, at around, perhaps right around here, maybe. You can sort of eyeball it to see where you want to start zooming in. So maybe like right around here, I want to start zooming in. So our position is going to put a keyframe there. And then by the time I get to here, I want to be zoomed in to, say, maybe like right around there. Like that? Do I want it like that? Maybe I want it to take a bit longer. Let's go ahead and preview it real quick, and we'll see how it looks. If not, we'll make the camera movement a bit slower. Maybe we'll make it longer. We'll see how it looks. Alright, so I basically previewed. If you ever want to RAM preview your thing so it isn't so jumpy and you can get a smooth preview, you gotta press this button right here. This is the RAM preview button, and then you'll see the bar go green here. Now if we take a look at this, it looks good, but I feel like we're zooming in way too fast. So I think we're gonna let this last also around half a second as well. So here we're going in at 22 frames, and that's about a quarter of a second. So that means 15 frames ahead, we'd be at 7 frames in 1 second in. So let's go ahead and head there, which is gonna be right around there exactly, right there. And try to get it there. That's fine. Let's go ahead and RAM preview this one more time and see how it looks. I still feel like that's a bit too fast on the camera zoom going in. Perhaps we just need to make these, perhaps we need to like just bring these out both a bit more, like so. Alright, so I think this looks good, but I feel like the pieces are moving far too slow. Perhaps we do need to make the strength a bit higher. So let's go ahead and head back into our composition. A lot of this is really just, you know, playing around, seeing what looks good. So let's try a strength of, let's say, 7. And let's preview that instead. Alright, still a bit too slow. Let's try a strength of 10. If anything, we'll do a quicker camera zoom in, so we still get that effect of seeing how we're rotating the camera and actually zooming into the explosion. So here's what we got so far. It looks a lot better. It's exploding a bit. It's exploding at a good pace, but I feel like now it's maybe it's a bit too fast. Let's go ahead and change it down to 8.5 perhaps. Okay, so 8.5 is exactly how fast I want it to be. The only problem is the way the camera moves is fine. It's very smooth, but I do want to make sure that when we're moving our camera, we're moving it a little earlier, because I still want to get that effect of, so maybe we'll move it right around there instead. So just like that. You can highlight all your keyframes and just go like that. And this time, if we go in, we get up. It makes it a bit more noticeable that we're actually turning our camera to the right. Or, I mean, we could even zoom in here a bit more. We can zoom in just like that. To zoom in, you get the bottom bar here and just move it to the right. And maybe we'll just bring it, and we could bring it all the way over here. And here at least when we move the camera. Yeah, there. I think I like that. I think I like that a lot better. So now what I want to do is have the text appear on screen, have it fade in, and as it fades in, have it on screen for just like maybe a second or two, and then have it explode. So I'm gonna go ahead and create another. Actually, no, we're not gonna add our background here. We're gonna create another new composition. So, and the reason why we're creating a new composition is because we can't just add our. I'll explain in just a second. What's going to happen is that if we were to just drag, we could just drag our second comp, which is our text layer, right? And we can drag it in here. But what's going to happen is that our keyframes are set to this composition. So if we move this around, like if we move this backwards like so, then our keyframes aren't going to move. They're basically set to this composition. So we want to make a new composition so our keyframes here are saved. So in our new composition, we're going to drag our comp 3 and our comp 2 in. So our comp 2 is just our regular text. This is just our regular text, right? We want it to stay on screen for about 2 seconds. So right around here. And here we're going to make comp 3 come in. So comp 3 will come in right around here. And comp 3 right now is on top. So that's fine, but we don't want it to come in until 2 seconds. So right around here, let's go ahead and drag that, and we can zoom by holding Alt and using your mouse wheel, or you can just use the little bar at the bottom here, like so. So we're gonna go ahead and like that. So that means what we're gonna do is we need to. What I like to do is Control Shift D will basically split the layer into two, and then we're gonna go ahead and delete this portion, and that way we can go ahead and animate the fade in from here. So we want the fade in to last about half a second. So let's once again go to 15 frames. 15 frames is right here. There's 15 frames. And let's go ahead and go toggle this down again. Go to transform. And here we're going to work the opacity. So opacity here should be 100, right? But opacity at the very start should be 0. That way, when we RAM preview this, what's going to happen is we have it zoom in like so, and then we have it explode like so. It looks really awesome. So let's take another quick look at this. Let's let it finish RAM previewing. And there we go. Looks nice. Now maybe the text is a bit on screen for too long. Maybe it just needs to be on for like a second even, or yeah, maybe just a second will do. So like that. We're just going to Control Shift D, bring that back, and then bring this forward like so. And now let's take a look. Goes on screen, stays on for a while, and it explodes. That's just fine. So now what we need to do is actually add our background. Now we have our compositions. Our background composition was comp 1. So we're going to grab a comp 1 here and drag it in underneath. And here we can see our nice looking background. Looks really cool. And we're basically zooming in like that. So we're getting somewhere, but still not perfect. We still want to add some, it still looks kind of bland. So to make this a bit more flashy, I actually got a optical flare from Video Copilots. It's a really great site. They teach you a lot about After Effects, and I got an optical flare. If you want to use this optical flare in your intro, you don't need to use it, but if you want to use it, I left a download link in the description. You can just download it for free and use it, and you'll see it looks pretty cool. So I have that on my desktop here, so that's right over here. And we're just going to go ahead and drag this in. Now with our pre-rendered footage here, what you can do is actually set an in point and an out point for your footage if you don't want like certain bits of it. So you can do that by setting different endpoints like so. And then when you drag it in, it basically starts at that point. But I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and take the whole piece of footage in because I'm not sure how I'm going to use this yet. I do want to use it though. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this piece in on top of our background. You see it's black right now. That's because of the background of the optical flare. So at the bottom here, when you click toggle switches and modes, you can switch between that, and right over here by the layers, click add, and this will basically add on top of our background here. Now, what I want to do is have our optical flare basically pass through our text. The only problem is it's a bit too slow. The entire optical flare is just a bit too slow. So what we're gonna have to do is either keep the text on the screen for longer, or we're gonna have to speed up the optical flare itself. So I can already see that optical flare doesn't really come in until right around here. So we can move this a bit to the left already, like so, and maybe a bit more to the left, like so. And now, if we watch this, we can see it coming in. I kind of want it to come in a bit earlier though, so let's move this even more to the left, like so. And now, if we preview this, RAM preview, let's take a look at when this actually, as you see, it goes pretty slow. So we may have to either one, keep the text on screen for longer, or to speed the optical flare up just a little bit. So let's RAM preview this. We may keep the text on screen just for a bit longer. So let's go ahead and move this back. How long does it need to be on screen? I kind of want it to explode right when that happens. Right when that happens, I want it to start exploding. So let's go ahead and move it back like so. And that means we're gonna have to keep this text on for this long. Now what you can do once again also is just increase the speed of the optical flare, and the way you do that is right clicking the layer, going up to time, and then enable time remapping, and all you gotta do is move this toggle backwards, and as you can see the entire thing goes a bit faster. But we're not gonna do that because it's gonna sort of mess the entire optical flare up. It's gonna mess the timing up. The explosion is gonna be, that light explosion is gonna be really fast, and I don't want to do that. So I'd rather just have a longer time for the text to be on screen. And I mean, 4 seconds isn't that bad. So if we go ahead and preview this now real quick, as you can see, text comes on, optical flare goes over, and because of that, we may need to decrease the shatter strength, because I feel like now it's a bit too quick. So we can go back into our shatter composition here, and instead let's go ahead and toggle down the switches, and perhaps let's make the strength a bit less. We want it to last a bit longer. So over here in our effects, let's bring our strength down some. So let's go back into our main composition, which is comp 4. Let's take a look at this now. Let's RAM preview that one more time. Alright, so I don't really like how slow it is. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and grab our optical flare layer, go to time, go to enable time remapping, and just speed it up just a little bit. So perhaps bring it over here. So at this point I want it to explode. We can just drag this back, can zoom in to get it accurate to the frame like so, and then just drag this to the position that we wanted, which is right there. And that should look a bit smoother. A lot of this is really just trial and error, seeing how you want it to look, changing the speeds of things. Alright, that looks a bit better now. A bit better. It still annoys me that that piece right there is flying towards the camera so slowly. But I mean, we could play around with the shadow settings a bit more and get it perfect. But I think this looks decent enough for the tutorial. So now what we want to do is add a shadow, because we don't have any shadows here. It looks kind of bland. So we have our optical flare, which is nice, but we don't have a shadow yet. So let's go ahead and do that by going into our we're gonna have to do this twice, because we're gonna need to add a shadow here, and we're gonna need to add a shadow here. Unfortunately, if we had this in one composition, we could do it on both, but we don't have that in one composition, so we can't do it here. It'd be good if we had this and this in one composition. That'd be really great. but we don't have that. So I'm just gonna go for the sake of it being easy and not moving anything around, I'll just add the same effect to both of these. But essentially what we need to do is let's go into our shatter effect just to get a good idea of it. Let's go ahead and head into our shatter composition here, and I'd say right there is good. And let's just zoom in a bit here, and we're gonna go up to effects. And before you do this, actually, we want to duplicate our composition here. So go ahead and you can copy and paste it, or you can, I think, right click duplicate. I think there's an option like that, or I think Control D even does it too. Yeah, so Control D will duplicate. But what we want to do is have our bottom composition, our duplicate here, go up to effects, then go to color correction, and go to tint, which is down here. And here under tint, what we want to do is for our white, we want to go ahead and change this to black, like so. And the reason we're doing that is because if we hide our top layer, if we don't change that to black, we're still going to have the red in there, and we don't want to have the red there. So that gives us completely black. If you don't have any color, you don't need to do this. After that, we're going to go up to effect again, and make sure you have your correct layer selected here. Go up to effect again, and want to find blur and sharpen, which is right here. And we want to add, let's try, we want to have some type of blur. CC radio fast blur seems like a good idea. And as you can see, this gives us a nice radial blur here. And if we go ahead and show our original, we get a nice shadow here, which looks really good. But we do want to change this a little bit. Let me go ahead and view this to 100%, fit up to 100%, and maybe zoom in just a tad like so. Let's grab our hand tool and move this to the center. We want to have this at the center position. We want to have it coming from the top center. Let me hide the tint, and let me hide the shatter effect here. We don't need that anymore. Let me hide that like so. So for the center here, you'll notice that we can change our center, and you'll see the effect that it has. It sort of goes towards the left here. So having it at the center is ideal here. And then we're gonna go ahead and duplicate the shadow. So once again, Control D, and when we duplicate that shadow, it gets a bit more intensified. All right, so I've played around with the shadow a bit, changing the amounts. I think I'm gonna stick with the first shadow. We don't need really this first shadow here with such a high amount. I think getting amount of 20 looks just fine, because it gives us a decent shadow around it. We don't need anything crazy. We can always increase this up to like maybe 40 even, but I wouldn't go higher than that, because then it starts to look a bit weird. So we have our shadow now. So from here, back in our main composition, we can see the shadow a bit. And the really cool part about this is that you can actually see the light interact with some of the pieces here. Look at that. You can really see how the light interacts with the pieces. It looks really cool. It makes this look a lot more dynamic, makes it look a lot more like interacting with all the layers. Now, there's one other thing I do want to do. Since we have a fairly long time where this logo just stands here, adding a light sweep is also a fairly good idea. A light sweep is basically just the light going over the text. And once again, we're going to have to do that in our text layer here. And the reason why is because if we do it in the composition here, the light sweep's going to go over everything. It's going to go over the background. It's going to go over the optical flare. We only want this to go over the text. We don't even want it to go over the shadow. We just want it to go over the text here. So we're going to go up to Effect again, and then we're going to go to Generate. Where's that? Generate. Here we go. And look for CC Light Sweep. Here we go. And if you can then change the way that the light sweep here goes with this little rotational thing. You can sort of see it if you want to have it like go diagonally like that, or you want to have it go diagonally like that. Depending on how you want it to go diagonally. Once again, in full resolution here is the best way to do it. And then basically what you want to do is at the start, well, the thing is we kind of need to take a look at our main composition here and see at what point we want the light sweep to start. So let's have it start right around maybe here, right around here. So that's 22 frames in, or maybe a second in. Maybe we can do it at a second in, and that'll be right around here. So at 1 second in, we'll start the light sweep, and it'll basically reach the other side maybe half a second. So let's go back into our text layer here, and let's go 1 second in, and I was just there. So 1 second in here, and you want to go ahead and right here under the center, you want to set this to start at the left side. As you can see, if I move this value, this first value, it starts moving across the text. So just bring this to the start here. A little past the start even, I'd say. Maybe like right around here. And set the keyframe here. That'll be our first keyframe. And then we basically want it to last about half a second, I'd say. So let's go to 15 frames in. Or 16 frames in, doesn't really matter. And then we want to set this position by moving it to the right, all the way to the very end after the GS, which would be a little more. Just like that. And now if we take a look at this, if we RAM preview this, you'll see we get a nice light sweep. Looks really cool. And if it ends up being too fast, we can always change it. So we go back to our main composition now, and if we preview this, let's see how our light sweep looks. Yeah, that looks fine. It doesn't look too quick. So let's take a look at the final project. I don't know if I want to add anything else. Oh yeah, I do want to add something else. But as you can see, as the pieces fly off, we then have our center text here, up here. Looks kind of weird because we don't have any drop shadow on. We don't have anything on it. But I mean, it's just something neat you could add as well. You could always add another radial blur. You could always add another shadow underneath it, and it would be just fine. We can highlight all of our layers here once you're done, and we can go up to layer, and we can go to pre-compose, and that'll basically give us a comp here, a brand new comp. And what we can then do is at the very end here, we can find where we want to have it fade out. So right around here, I want to have it fade out. So we're going to go to transform again, and we're just going to get the opacity here, keyframe at 100 here, and this is at 7 seconds and 18, and let's just make it 8 seconds at 8 seconds like so. We want to have it be down to 0, and this alpha channel will obviously be black. We could put a black background here, so we can go to layer, new solid, and get a black, and just bring that underneath here like so. And now if we were to pre-render this in full resolution, let's take a look at what this looks like as our finished product. One thing I did forget to do, I just noticed this. What can you notice here about this and this? You should be able to tell the difference. What are we missing? What are we missing here that we're missing here? The shadow. So that's my fault. I accidentally forgot that. So we're gonna need to go ahead and an easy way to do this is just go to effects here and see what you have here. I have it set to 40, and I have the position here set to the center already. So we can just do the same thing here. We can duplicate this. We don't want to have the light sweep though on the bottom, so we can delete that. But we do need to go up to effects again. We need to go to color correction right here. We need to go to tint, and we need to get our white, make this black like so. We can hide this real quick, and then we need to go up to effects again and go to blur and sharpen, go to fast blur, and we need to bring this to 40, and we need to grab our center here and go flip to 100% real quick and just do it like that. And then I think that's basically it, like so, exactly. And then we can go into our pre-comp here, and yeah, here we have the drop shadow here again. So that's exactly what we need. Alright, so here's our final finished product. Now looking at it, I wish I would have picked a different text, because you can see the U here looks a bit too close together, and I wish I had another. I wish I would have used another text that has a bit more spread out letters. They weren't so close together. But essentially, hopefully you understand how to create an intro. Looks a bit, janky here and there. The explosion looks a bit too quick or too slow. I don't know. I like it. It's not perfect yet. And if I would be making this my intro, I would definitely perfect it. But that's kind of an example for you. It's kind of how you can do an intro. A very simple one. It isn't too difficult at all. There's obviously much more complicated ones you can do, and the one that I have right now isn't too complicated either. It's pretty simple too, my current one. But hopefully you enjoyed the video, hopefully you learned something, and if you're new to After Effects, I have plenty of other After Effects tutorials on the channel, including a beginner's guide even, which it's a rather lengthy video, but it does go over a lot of the basics in After Effects, and if you want to check that out, I'll definitely leave a link in the description below, as well as an annotation and a card on screen right now. If you want to check that out, you can, but lots of other tutorials on the channel. If you want to check them out, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Plenty more to come as well. We do lots of tutorials on Photoshop, GIMP, design, video editing, graphic designs like this, motion graphics like this, lots of cool stuff, Audacity, audio editing, all that kind of stuff. So you're interested in that, go ahead and subscribe. If you like this video or like any of my other videos, you found it helpful, or you learned something from it, you can always donate $1 to my Patreon page. All you gotta do is click the card in the top right corner of the screen. Anything as low as that is always appreciated and always very helpful. I also have a vlogging channel, music channel, advice channel, and a gaming channel. If you want to check those out as well, links are in the description as well as on the end card. And with that, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching as always, and this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.